Hello, you are listening to the Divorce University online podcast with your hosts, Thomas and Tammy Ferreira.
Hi, I'm Tammy.
And I'm Thomas.
And we are back. And today's episode is called Men versus Women. And so me and Thomas may fight on this one. I'll just forewarn you, but we're going to let him.
Right. We did on the last take.
We are going to let him give a little intro.
We had to do a different take.
No, just.
She was beating up on me.
No, that's not why.
She was hurting my feelings.
We had a little technical difficulty, so this is actually round 2, so we already know we're going to fight. So anyway, go ahead.
Right. So men and women, I am launching a coaching product. I have my launch is starting tomorrow. We're recording this I guess it's starting yesterday.
By the time this releases, he will have started yesterday. At the time of recording, it will start tomorrow.
That's right.
We're recording on a Sunday. Anyway.
So I have collected about 10 guys, and I asked them, I put something on the email, what are your big concerns, about co-parenting? And
right. How can I help you? Yeah.
And I would say 4 of them gave me a huge, several paragraph rant. And I've seen that before on Tammy's site or Tammy's coaching program.
Women's coaching.
And I've had a chance to talk to them. And what I noticed was that the men are complaining about different stuff from the women.
Yes.
Yeah. The women are, by and large, I think, you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but a lot of it is how the men are treating them.
Yes.
And how, a lot of stuff around communication.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff around, child custody and that kind of
how
stuff.
they treat the children.
How they treat the children and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that with the men, it's a lot of the concern is support.
Right.
Okay. There's more concern about support. And the other thing that the men are really concerned about is this whole thing about parental alienation.
Right.
And many of them feel that the mom is aligning the child with them, with mom,
right,
against the dad. And he's not getting custody. And the longer it goes, the worse it gets. And it's all her fault.
Right.
Right. So that's
and therein lies our problem from the mom's perspective, right?
Right.
So I mean,
but it's not just dad. It's not just dad going, well, it's all her fault.
No, I mean, I think it's flip sides of the same coin, for the men and the women. And let me just say that, Thomas and I both work with men and women. We both have group coaching programs. I have a women's, he has a men's, but we both also we have individual clients. I have individual coaching clients. Sometimes it's men. I have a call tomorrow with a guy. And you have, Thomas obviously
I have quite a few female clients.
Yeah, you have litigation clients and both men and women. So
yeah,
we're not.
I would say more women than men.
Right.
Right.
And our only point in this episode is that we do come at it differently and our concerns are different. We are going to I am going to kind of take the woman's role, so to speak, and he's going to kind of take the men's role I'm going
to be right
as we talk about this and move through it. So, and please know that we're not painting everybody with the same brush. I know that details of cases are different. Sometimes it's the mom, sometimes it's the dad, whatever. I'm not saying all men are always this way or all women are always this way. We're trying to help you understand the two perspectives and where we go off the rails. And so what happens, I think, for the women is, a lot of times they've been the person that's home, right? Or they've sacrificed their career. Maybe they stayed home when the child was very young, or they, worked part-time as the children got a little bit older, whatever. So naturally, by having been the person that's with the children day in and day out, they obviously have created a really tight bond with the children most of the time.
Well, you got to go get a job.
So right. So now I'm faced with the perspective of I have to go get a job or a better job or provide more of my own support or whatever. Dad is naturally probably going to get, more, he's generally dad will get, a lot of times he'll have 50-50, but obviously dad's going to have more parenting time than probably what he had before. Honestly, if he was living, mom and dad were living in the same home and dad was working a full-time job and mom was staying at home, dad's probably going to have more direct time with the kids post-divorce than he did pre-divorce.
Probably.
That's just kind of how it tends to play out. But the issue becomes that it's not so much that I think, I sometimes mom or dad, it's really hard to be like politically correct here, but either parent I have seen situations where either parent can be guilty of parental alienation. I've seen moms be guilty of that. I've seen dads be guilty of that. Okay. That's not a gender specific thing. I think moms are accused of it more often. And I'll tell you why.
It's usually the primary caregiver.
It's the simple fact that we've been the person that's there with the child all the time. So it's not that I'm trying to align the children with me. It's that the children are already naturally aligned with me because I'm the person that they call for everything. I'm the person.
Well, I got to push back on that a little bit because, a lot of times what's happened is that, she's leaving the marriage. And she's finding that she's getting a little bit more than she bargained for. And suddenly she's got to share custody with dad, and she's upset and she resents that. And so she starts telling the kid. And
I don't think most moms do that. The vast majority of moms I work with don't do that.
Not if you tell them not to, they don't.
I do tell them not to. I don't think it's good to badmouth that. I don't think that's good for the child.
So
that's where I try to keep our focus. I'm not saying that never happens. I'm just saying I don't think that the vast majority of mothers do that.
Okay, yeah. But a lot of guys think that's...
Everybody thinks they do, right?
That's right. And I think there's some of that on both sides. But I want to back up just a little bit because conflict between men and women has been going on since the fall, since time immemorial.
Since the dawn of time.
Since the dawn of time. Thank you for that. Because I didn't. Let's say one more. Since
the dawn of time is the expression.
Animals emerged from the slime. I don't know.
Dawn of time.
Forever. And the thing is that, if you listen to the comedians, you know this, that men and women don't understand each other.
Right.
There's a fundamental level on which guys don't understand women.
Right.
And there's a fundamental level in which women don't understand men.
Right. Because y'all don't make no sense.
Yeah. I know. So here's a quick, and we're at odds, right?
Right.
That's why there's conflict in marriages.
Right.
Because we're at odds. And usually the themes of the conflict center around these types of misunderstandings.
Yes.
Like the Love and Respect book that we talked about on our last take.
Yeah, Love and Respect is a Christian marriage book.
Yeah, and it's a good book. It's a wise book because it recognizes that men and women want different things from relationships.
That's true.
And to the extent you can generalize, and there are always exceptions,
right?
But to the extent you can generalize, men crave respect. And this is true of me as well. In all my marriages, I have wanted my wife to respect me, to respect what I do for a living, to honor my contribution to the household, and to acknowledge me as an authority figure in the home.
And, honestly, I think that was one of my big areas of lack of knowledge around in my first marriage. I really didn't understand that. I know you probably feel like I'm disrespectful sometimes, but I was quite
You're never disrespectful.
I was quite disrespectful, and
you're just downright junkyard dog mean.
I was quite disrespectful in my first marriage, and he was no peach. I'm not saying that he was verbally and emotionally abusive.
I was just
and all
kidding.
The things
She's fantastic,
and all the things that we hear a lot of the women say. Oh, he's verbally and emotionally abusive, and all that kind of thing. I feel like that's how my first husband was, but. It's not my job to own his part. It's my job to own my part, which is that I also was very disrespectful and almost dismissive. And I think in mine and his case in particular, it was very difficult because we had known each other since we were 11 and 13. So I think we both had views of each other as a kid, essentially, in our brains. And then we got married at 17 and 19. And it's almost like, we were in our 30s and married, but we still interacted like kids.
Right.
In a lot of ways, because that was the dynamic of it. But I think the disrespect was a huge piece of the breakdown of the marriage overall.
So when you get into these co-parenting relationships, now you're still having the battle, but the battleground is different.
Yes.
Now the battleground is this co-parenting relationship.
Right.
And yeah, I'm sure Tammy teaches this in her course. I teach it in mine. You want to take the emotion out of the conversation
Right.
when you're having, but it always breaks down around this line. Like, dad wants to have house rules. Okay. Kids we got to agree on the time that they go to bed and what they're going to have for dinner. And so mom feeling like she, like her voice isn't being heard, takes a shot at him and says, well, you never were the one to step up to the plate.
Right.
Okay, girls, ladies, don't say that to the guy. That's fighting words, and I'll tell you why. Because it hits you right in the solar plexus.
Right.
It hits you right where you live. If my self-image is as of a good father, one who loves the child but disciplines them and sets boundaries, and as a provider,
Right.
then basically calling me, somebody who hasn't done what I have to do, it's an attack on my integrity.
Right.
Which I'm going to say this, I have no other word for this. It hurts my feelings.
Right.
Okay. But I can't say that, I'm a man. So I say, screw you. And it escalates from there.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Well, to me, this is two sides of a very similar coin, because what happens when the family unit pulls apart, if you do have the situation where dad has been the primary breadwinner and mom has been kind of the primary parent, and that's how you've divided duties within the household, then what happens is the separation or divorce happens, and dad starts feeling like he's losing the family.
Right.
And then mom feels like she's losing her financial security.
Right.
Right. So, and I will tell you that as the mom, I have found that it's been much easier for me to take steps to solve my financial security than it has been, in my opinion, for my ex-husband to take steps to solve the problem of the relationship with the kids.
Yeah.
So really,
Although that's not true with every case.
It's not true with every case, but it could feel like the scarier burden sometimes, because mom is feeling like, oh my gosh, I the financial security, and I don't know how I'm going to keep a roof over everybody's head and all that kind of thing.
Right.
But to me, you can find ways to make money. It's not easy, but
Right.
if you're dad and you haven't you've invested a lot of time in work and providing for the family and doing all those things, and you haven't invested as much time in the relationship with the kids. And I know a lot of dads do. I'm not saying that they don't. I think it depends on your job and the hours you work and how many hours you have to put in and what it takes to provide for your family. And everybody's situation is different. But I think that for dads, if you haven't had as much, face-to-face time with your kids, then you have more of an uphill battle once the divorce or separation happens, because you've got to figure out how to start having that interaction without it coming through mom. Because when we're in the relationship, a lot of times
Yeah, mom
the stay-at-home parent or mom has kept that relationship
mediates
flowing.
Yeah.
Right.
So guys, you got to come to my coaching group, and we're going to teach you some skills.
Yeah.
And there's skills I had to learn, because when I got my divorce, my kids were 18 months and 2.5.
They were babies, yeah.
They were just little. So I can literally teach you how to bond and have a relationship with a toddler,
Right.
with a school-age child, or with a teenager. And it's different in every case.
The teenagers are the most challenging, I think.
But, and I don't want to say anything negative, because I'm supposed to be defending the guys in this conversation. But guys, you really have to get off it's all her fault.
Right.
Not so much, maybe it is her fault, but blaming her doesn't get you where you want to go.
Right.
It's irrelevant to the quality of your parent-child relationship.
Right.
And if she's restricting you from seeing the child or having contact, that's that's something we have to deal with as a legal matter.
Right.
But in general, I urge my guys, look, you got to take responsibility for your parent-child relationship.
Right.
And that means meeting your teenagers, for example, where they are.
Right.
And that's hard. I mean, that's an
It is.
adjustment.
It is. It's hard to do. I mean, it's a kind of, it's similar to like, mom's got to go, and if she's been a stay-at-home mom, she's got to go and, maybe go back to school or take courses or do whatever to try to get herself ready to work, to get back into the workforce. And as the dad, there aren't things that, I mean, you do need to take courses and do things to give yourself tools to be able to start bonding with your children. But depending on the age of the children, like you said, that can be more difficult, because if you've been off doing your own thing the whole time, or kind of your focus has been work. Right. And I think it's kind of sad for the dad, because it's like,
for the dad.
Well, yeah, because a lot of times he has been a very hard worker and breadwinner, and he's been very, very focused on the work. But a lot of times, especially as like teenagers, and I find this happens a lot with dads and daughters, is the daughter essentially feels like, well, you've never been here. All you care about is your job. And it's really hard, because dad's like, all I care about is my job. The only reason I work this stupid job is to give you guys everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's it's this dynamic that's just difficult. And when you were in the relationship and you were each handling each piece and you had each other's back, that worked. But now we go into court, and what has to happen is mom has to slice off a little bit of that family domain and allow dad participation.
Allow him to have it.
And
she has to tell the child to respect her father.
Right. But I can't make the child respect her father by just commanding her to.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Well, a mom who has a relationship with the child that's struggling with a relationship with her dad, a lot of the problem is that mom's angry, and she's angry, and she might be a good reason. Maybe the guy had an affair, for example. And if that anger comes through, I mean, she can't hide that from the child.
Okay, you and I are going to fight a little bit here. I think that's true.
I'm not going to fight.
I think that's true in some circumstances. I think when you have things like people have survived domestic violence and that type of thing, I think that can be true. But I think for the vast majority of us, that we just want...
Or where there's an affair. Come on. Really?
I never felt like I didn't want the kids to go with him. I was angry with him over the affair.
I think you're unusual in that way.
I don't think that's true. I think we just want what's best for our kids. And I think the vast majority of us recognize that a relationship with dad is what's best for the kids.
Yeah, I think the girl along the way gets the message sometimes. Dad's abandoned the family.
Well, here's the thing. I can't, no matter what I say, I can't make that child have feelings for their dad that was never present and involved. Now, I will tell you that you, to me, are an exception, because you are a very hands-on dad.
Yeah.
My son's very hands-on dad. My dad, very hands-on dad. Okay. My ex-husband, not so much. Okay. He was when they were super little. He was, when he was home, he would interact with them and things like that. He never did bathes or diaper changes or baths, or diaper changes or anything like that. But here's the thing. When the divorce happened, they were 11 and 15. And I can remember saying to my 15-year-old, who didn't want to go with his dad, who frankly figured out the affair before I did and was angry in and of his own self. I didn't tell him anything. And he didn't want to go. And I would say, you need to go with your dad. You need to go with your dad. It's important. I know you don't understand, but you need to go with your dad. And he came home one day and he said, how long are you going to make me do this? No. And I said, do what? And he said, bang my head against this wall. So I can encourage him all I want to, and I can know that it's good for him. But if dad doesn't facilitate that relationship on his end, that's not my fault. I can bring the baton to you, but you got to take the baton and run the rest of the way with it. I can't run the whole race for you.
Right, but that's not what angry women do. And okay, I want to get to the solution a little bit.
Okay.
Because first of all, the reason why we're having this argument, to use her term, is because we're not being charitable to each other. Mm-hmm. We're not. Neither one of us really sees the situation through the eyes of the other. And that's where it becomes difficult.
Right.
I mean, these guys, their feelings that they are sending me on the Facebook page are legitimate.
Right.
And it really seems unfair.
Right.
Okay.
Well, as it does for my moms as well.
So I think the first step in solving the problem is to try and give one another the judgment of charity,
Right.
which is hard to do.
Right.
So you have to cultivate a genuine charity, and if you're mad, if you feel that you've been abused, and I think most of the women do feel like they've been abused. I think every one of them does, really, to one extent or another.
Yeah.
But, I think we have to start seeing the other person's point of view,
Right.
because we won't get there. And, we're really all human beings.
Right.
And being a human being is hard.
Right.
It's hard for everybody.
Well, and
It's hard for you. It's hard for me. It's hard for the judge that's hearing your case.
Right.
It's hard for your attorney. It's hard for everybody.
hard for the kids. Yeah.
So I think we start there. That with malice, with charity for all and malice towards none, as Abraham Lincoln said.
Right.
We have to try and because it's not normal to have that attitude.
Well, and I mean, let me just say that I can relate to this because this was true in my case too. And I think for the vast majority of my moms, what I hear is, look, I'd love for the kids to be happy to go with him. Nothing would make my day more. I need a break. A lot of my moms have a large burden. They're trying to work full time now. They're trying to take care of the kids. They've got a lot of things on their plate. And frankly, they want a break. Nothing to make them happier. The hard part is when you as the mom, and we're the kind of the softer, more kind of protective, kind of parent. And when you see your child struggling, not wanting to go with dad, and I mean, we talk about this. To an extent, you see that in every parenting plan where the kids don't want to transition. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you have a teen or an older child. This isn't usually a problem with a really young one, but when they start getting into 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, in there, or even a little bit older, if they don't want to go with dad and they're begging you, please don't make me go. He does this. He's mean. He's blah, blah, blah. That's really hard as the mom to ask that person. I mean, I know it's something that needs to be. Right, but you're the
parent.
I understand that. But we're also that's our baby.
Okay, no, I get it.
It's hard to watch the child. It was difficult for me to watch my 15-year-old struggle with his father. That was difficult.
Right. Well, we have to understand that, first of all, I have two things to say about that. Okay. First of all, there's a win-win situation here. The win-win situation is mom can have a career, a fulfilling career, an exciting career. That's something that she can get excited about. And the kid, if you're doing equal time, the kids will be with him half the time, so you can pursue that career. The other thing is, Dad, you get to be the full-time parent for a period of time. And that involves doing some of the things that mom used to do. But it also involves the reward and the payback of having that relationship that you thought mom was had a monopoly on. Okay, the second thing is that men and women parent differently.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is an argument even in marriage.
Right. So when the boys were little, my ex-wife would nag me about letting them get too close to the edge of the pool. And I thought it was good for them to be at the edge of the pool, and hopefully they'll fall in, they'll learn something. You
don't let my baby fall in the pool. What's wrong with you?
Right. This is, woman teaches a child how to swim. You get the floaties
and the ring around their
and you make
tummy
sure and you get a team of people observing to make sure that the head never goes underwater and all this stuff. The way I learned to swim is that my father picked me up physically and threw me in the deep end. That's how I learned how to swim. Okay. That's how men teach their children how to swim. Okay. That makes a mom's stomach churn to hear that.
Absolutely.
There's no question about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we took my kids actually to, because they were so young when I separated. Tammy and I took them to swim school to learn how to swim. But my kids like to take risks. They come home. My 18-year-old recently came with a big old gash that needed stitches because he was skateboarding.
Yeah, and he fell.
The other one smashed his phone into a million pieces.
Oh my
because
goodness!
he was
Don't get me started
skateboarding.
on that one.
But boys want it. There's a certain amount of risk that's good for them.
Right.
That teaches them how to be men. It teaches them that you can, scrape your leg and get up and be tough.
Right.
And that's an important, because life is hard, as I said.
Yes.
Life's hard. And so women, the task for women is to let go of some of that safetyism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that to an extent. I mean, I'm a little bit of a, rub dirt in it, you're fine kind of, I'm not super.
She threw me in the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, I'm not super like boo-boo attending or anything like that. I don't really get, my younger son has had stitches in his head twice. He broke his arm when he was 3. He's broken his collarbone twice.
And I can hear the women going, "Oh, you let him do that? Really? You sent him out there without a helmet? What's wrong with you?"
Well, I don't think we're all that way, but I think what happens is a lot of times, you talked about they all feel like they're abused. And I mean, I think that's true. And a lot of them, let's not just say they feel like they're abused. A lot of them are abused.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been through very verbally, emotionally, mentally abusive situations.
Right.
As I was never physically abused, but boy, emotionally completely abused.
Right.
And so it's real hard. Then you're in that situation.
But the charitable way of looking at it, though, is that's the best he could do.
Well, wait.
Right.
Just wait. Okay, wait for it. And it's really hard with
You're going to have charity in a minute. Okay.
Yeah, it's really hard with your child to go, well, I know what that interaction felt like, but I'm going to force you to go into it.
Yeah.
And I think when they're younger, it is a little bit harder. Now, what you just said, thank you for stealing my thunder.
I'm so
as
sorry.
Always. This is part
That's
of
what I do.
This is part of the
because he's a man.
abuse that I endure.
Some of the abuse. I'll make it up to you later.
Not if I don't let you, you won't. All right. So when my son was about 17 or 18, and again, this is when they start to get a little older. Like, this doesn't help as much if the child is 8 or 9, although I think it can be helpful to cultivate this type of view of the other parent. Is if the other parent is difficult in that way, whether it's mom or dad or whatever. One of the things I used to tell my kids is, look, he's doing the best that he can do.
Right.
He's doing the very best he knows how to do. I know he doesn't parent the way I do, AKA he's not as good as me. I'm just kidding. But I know he doesn't parent the way I do. I know that he doesn't come through for you in the same way.
He wouldn't ruin your kids in exactly the same way that you would ruin them.
Well, right. And I've talked to my kids a little bit about this as they've gotten older. And one of the things that my oldest son said he said, it was just always hard because you just didn't know. Like, if you got to dad's house and you didn't have lunch money, or you didn't have your ball shoes, or you didn't have whatever, you didn't know that he was going to help you solve that problem. Right. You're sort of at his mercy. And, I think from dad's perspective, it's kind of like, well, you forgot your ball shoes. Guess you're not going to do that again, are you?
Right.
Yeah.
And
so with mom, we go, oh, it's your ball shoes. Let me run that over to you and solve the problem for you. So it's just that different style of parenting.
Right.
But I think that when my kids got old enough, I did try to cultivate your dad's doing the best that he can do, because here's the thing. I don't want my children to feel unloved. Dad's not behaving that way because he doesn't love them. Dad's behaving that way because that's the only way dad knows how to love them. In my particular situation, I'm not saying all dads. I'm saying this dad in particular.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want my kids to have some kind of complex like they were unworthy of love, or that he didn't love them specifically for some reason. No, this is just how dad is, because he's got his own wounds and his own things, as we all do. Yeah. And so I really tried to help them start to have that view of charity. And I think you can do that, by saying, the other parent is trying their, and sometimes it's mom's trying, she's doing the best she can. You have parents that struggle with alcohol and drug abuse and all these different things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are trying and doing the very best that they can do, even though the other parent has concerns, obviously,
Right.
that are valid.
Well, I think whether the guy or the gal, you have to take control over the things that you have control over.
Right.
And you have to let go of the things that you don't have control over.
Right.
It's very tempting for the guys to get into this mindset of it's all her fault.
Right.
I remember I represented this one gal, and her position was, he yells at the girls and tells them it's their fault. He yells at me and tells them it's my fault, and he won't take responsibility
Right.
for his part in the problem. And to some extent, I sympathize with that.
Right.
But I also sympathize with him because he's on the outside looking into this family, and he can't crack in.
Right.
And what I want to tell the guys is, guys, you've got to saying that it's her fault is uniquely unhelpful.
Right.
It doesn't get you where you want to, and it might be her fault. You may have somebody who's truly wicked and is just trying to poison their minds. That's one you hear all the time. But what can you do about it?
Right. And here's what the vast majority of moms say. They say, I already know what's going to happen.
Right.
I know him. He's going to do this. He's going to do this. He's
Yeah.
not going to do this. He's not going to do that. And what I say to them is, you're not going to get orders from the court based on what you are afraid or you think is going to happen.
Right.
What you have to do is let dad have that parenting time. Then when you let dad have that parenting time, now it's on dad.
Right.
Dad's got to figure it out. Dad either sinks or swims. It's not
Right.
your job as the mom.
And guys, that's your opportunity
Right.
to turn this whole thing around, to get 50-50 custody. Woohoo!
Right. And
Yeah.
as mom, it's not your job to try to
Right.
mold that or supervise it or navigate it or any of
Right.
those things. Dad and the kids have to learn how to have that relationship without you as the buffer. And so what
Right.
you do is you let them go. And then you go have a weekend out, spend time with your girlfriends, go visit your family, start your own
Self-care.
business. Go get a massage, just sit down and read a book. Heaven's sake, go to the bathroom uninterrupted. I mean, it's real simple.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is to try to find, and I know a lot of us are very mom focused. I mean, I have no idea what my life would be, honestly, if I wasn't a mom. My kids and my grandkids are just number one for me above any and everything else.
Mhm.
So I can understand how that is difficult to do, but I could tell you that that point in time is gonna come whether you ever go through divorce or separation or not, because when your kids get teenagers and leave home, that's what empty nest is. It's I hit this point where, I mean, I
I'm right
didn't,
on the
but a
cusp
lot
of
of
that
women,
myself,
a
yeah.
lot of women do. Yeah, you're having some struggle with it where like I've
Mhm.
devoted everything to these kids and now they're not
Right.
here, and oh my goodness, what do I do? So it's think of it sort of like a little bit of a empty nest on an earlier time
it's a
schedule than
trial.
what you were.
It's practice emptiness.
That's right. So you have to get focused on yourself and what you're doing and how you're going to take care of yourself and the kids and put him out of your mind. Whatever he's doing, he's got to learn how to navigate that relationship with the kids. And one or two things will happen. You'll either have a dad that steps up to the plate and figures it out. And if he does, that's absolutely awesome for your kids. And if you have a dad that doesn't step up to the plate and doesn't do what he's supposed to do, guess what? You're going to end up with full-time. Probably
Right.
by the time they're teenagers, they'll be full time with you. And then you'll be like, oh, what did I wish for?
And that's not the result we're looking for.
Right.
We're looking for a result that has the kids bonded to both parents. And,
Right.
and that's the best case scenario. That's the healthiest scenario.
It is. But as
And-
mom, you can't control whether dad puts in that effort or
No,
not. But you can control letting go and letting him have that opportunity.
Right. And I was going to say about that is having a 50-50 having an alternate week parenting plan is fantastic.
Yeah.
As much as it's hard to let go of the little ones and
Yeah.
send them to dads, it's terrific because, as Tammy said, you get a chance to do some self-care. You could even do a Brendan Burchard and put up a membership site and start making money, and you can achieve your dreams. You can do whatever you want. And guys, it's perfect for you because half the time, you can be, Mr. Gung-Ho at the office. And then when the kids come back, you can give them more time. You can give them more attention. You can read them bedtime stories. Guys, come into my group and I will teach you how to reverse what you see as parental alienation. I'll teach you how to turn that around.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this on Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll be more mid-challenge, but Thomas will have replays up. So we did a little pre-intro to it last week, but you can always go to divorceuniversityonline.com/dads-custody-challenge, and you can register for it. And I'll be having another one coming up soon too for the moms. But
that's divorceuniversityonline.com /dads custody challenge.
Right. But one of the things I was going to say is, if you really look at it, even from a stay-at-home mom perspective with your kids and the interaction, I can't tell you before the divorce, I can't tell you how many times in a week I said to my kids, I can't do that right now. I have to do something else. I gotta pay bills. I gotta make the grocery list. I gotta wash the dishes. I gotta do laundry. I was constantly like having to do something. And, I mean, some people are better about this than others. I was a young mother and I just wasn't really good at this, at just saying, you know what, it doesn't matter. The dirty dishes will be there tomorrow. I'm going to sit down and play with my kid. And with Thomas's kids, our kids are our sets of boys. We have 2 boys each and they're 10 years apart. And my experience in helping with raising his has been totally different because, like he said, that week on week off schedule, what happens is when they're gone for that week, we work, we get the groceries in, we change the beds, wash up all the clothes, do all the
record the podcast. We do all of that, like all the typical things it takes to keep your house running on a day-to-day basis. We do that when the kids are gone. And then when they come back, it's really just about them. The house is full of groceries, everything's clean. And we really just focus on them for that week that they're here. And then when they go back to mom's, well, it's different now. It's not week on, week off. But when they were little, and then they would go back to mom's, and then it would be like, okay, now we can focus on all the other stuff again. So it's still, I think, in some ways, Thomas's kids got as much of parenting time from me or him or whatever as my kids did. It's just that my kids were also in the house while we were doing other things that didn't involve the parent. Well, this has been an exhausting episode. I'm tired of arguing with you.
I feel like this topic could be like a 5-episode
I think we should do a part 2 for sure.
Because there's just so much to this.
Right.
And really, when you go into court,
this is marital therapy live.
Well, when you've been in the relationship and this has been the dynamic, and then you go into court and everything's turned on its head and it's totally different. Yeah. So maybe we'll do a part 2 and talk about the court aspect of it a little bit deeper.
Of male versus female?
Yes.
Okay, run the credits.
All right. So if you are listening to the podcast, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, rate and review us in iTunes, wherever you're listening to us. I'm sorry, if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, hit like and subscribe.
If you're listening to it on YouTube, then turn the monitor on your computer on.
Then I hope you're not driving if you're listening to it on YouTube. Anyway, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit like and subscribe. If you're listening to us, rate and review us, and also subscribe so you get notified as new episodes come out each week. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Divorce University online podcast with your hosts, Thomas and Tammy Ferreira. For more information, visit www.divorceuniversityonline.com.